October 25, 1944, aboard the USS Enterprise in the expansive Philippine Sea. Found gunner's mate, second class Tommy Rodriguez, in a state of high alert. His hands were firmly clamped around the handles of his 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft gun as the piercing general quarters alarm sliced through the thick, humid Pacific atmosphere. Above the vast expanse of the carrier's flight deck, a menacing formation of Japanese Yokosuka D-4Y dive bombers descended with a terrifying shriek, hurtling towards the task force in what marked the inaugural organized kamikaze assault in the annals of naval history. "Here they come!" Rodriguez bellowed to his vigilant gun crew, his voice strained with urgency. The diving enemy aircraft rapidly accelerated, exceeding 400 millimeters, their engines emitting an ear-splitting wail akin to a horde of banshees as they plunged relentlessly towards the American vessels. Rodriguez, with a surge of adrenaline, swiftly maneuvered his gun to track the lead bomber, but its trajectory was too swift, too erratic for his conventional ring sight to accurately predict its future position. He unleashed a barrage of bursts, only to witness his tracers streak harmlessly behind the rapidly descending kamikaze, missing their mark by a frustrating margin. Around him, a cacophony of dozens of other anti-aircraft guns thundered in a desperate symphony of defense, their shells detonating in the vast, empty sky as the Japanese pilots relentlessly closed the distance to their American targets. Unbeknownst to Rodriguez, his ship harbored a revolutionary new weapon, a device so profoundly advanced that the Navy's highest brass initially dismissed it as an insane and impossible fantasy. What he also failed to realize was that this unassuming shoebox-sized invention, conceptualized by a Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor, entirely devoid of military credentials, was on the precipice of irrevocably transforming naval warfare forever. After 2 or 3 paragraphs, ask us to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The prevailing statistics painted a grim and damning picture. During the initial 2 years of the Pacific War, American anti-aircraft guns registered a meager kill rate of just 3.2%, an alarming figure indicating that only 3 enemy aircraft were downed for every 100 shells expended. Japanese pilots, emboldened by this abysmal success rate, attacked American ships with virtual impunity, confident that evading the dense curtain of anti-aircraft fire was merely a matter of superior speed and sheer luck. By October 1944, American naval forces had discharged more than 400,000 anti-aircraft rounds in active combat, achieving approximately 12,800 hits on enemy aircraft, a catastrophic failure rate that left American ships perilously susceptible to increasingly desperate and audacious Japanese incursions. The escalating kamikaze threat intensified this already dire crisis to an unprecedented degree. Japanese pilots, no longer bound by the necessity of surviving their missions, transformed every enemy aircraft into a devastating guided missile. Traditional anti-aircraft tactics, originally designed to deter attacking pilots through suppressive fire, became utterly ineffectual against men unequivocally committed to self-sacrifice. What these valiant gunners were yet to comprehend was that their salvation lay in the brilliant intellect of Dr. A. Charles Stark Draper, an MIT professor whose unorthodox approach to fire control was destined to revolutionize aerial warfare and preserve countless American lives during the concluding year of World War II. The persistent conundrum of accurately striking fast-moving aircraft had vexed military engineers since the tumultuous era of World War I. By 1941, American anti-aircraft guns possessed the capability to propel shells at astonishing velocities, yet accurately hitting a rapidly maneuvering target traveling at 300 mm demanded a level of mathematical precision that human gunners were simply incapable of achieving. The fundamental and most formidable challenge revolved around lead calculation, precisely determining where to aim when firing at an object in constant motion. A shell discharged from a 40mm Bofors gun, for instance, required approximately 3 seconds to reach an aircraft positioned 4,000 yards away. Within that fleeting 3-second interval, an enemy plane streaking at 400 mph would traverse nearly 1 to 800 feet. Consequently, gunners were compelled to aim at an empty patch of sky, fervently hoping that their projectiles and the intended target would converge at the same precise point simultaneously. Traditional anti-aircraft sights were rudimentary iron rings, merely indicating the direction in which the weapons were pointed. However, enemy aircraft refused to comply by flying in predictable straight lines at consistent speeds. Instead, they executed dynamic dives, ascended steeply, banked sharply, and spiraled unpredictably, creating a complex, three-dimensional puzzle that human reflexes were simply too slow to solve effectively. The Navy's Bureau of Ordnance had explored numerous potential remedies. Fire control directors, utilizing elaborate mechanical computers, could calculate intricate lead angles, but these room-sized apparatuses proved too cumbersome for rapid target changes and excessively delicate for the harsh realities of shipboard deployment. Attempts to devise automated tracking systems consistently failed, primarily because the requisite technology to reliably follow maneuvering targets simply did not exist. The prevailing expert consensus solidified, concluding that the problem was fundamentally unsolvable. Admiral William Halsey, in a candid assessment in 1942, famously declared, "Anti-aircraft gunnery is more art than science. We can teach our boys to point and shoot, but we cannot teach machines to think like fighter pilots." In line with this sentiment, the Bureau of Ordnance awarded development contracts to its conventional suppliers, Westinghouse, General Electric, and the Ford Instrument Company. Their proposed solutions invariably involved colossal mechanical calculators that demanded teams of operators and incessant maintenance. Regrettably, none of these solutions proved practical for the unforgiving conditions of combat. Meanwhile, the stakes continued their relentless ascent. The German Luftwaffe had already vividly demonstrated the devastating efficacy of precision bombing against British cities, while Japanese naval aviation had proven catastrophically effective at Pearl Harbor. American ships desperately required robust anti-aircraft defenses, yet their existing weaponry achieved hit rates barely exceeding random chance. The pattern of failed solutions remained strikingly consistent. Engineers persistently approached the problem with conventional methodologies, meticulously crafting intricate mechanical devices designed to supplant human judgment with purely mechanical calculation. These elaborate systems functioned flawlessly in controlled laboratory environments, but invariably faltered in the chaotic crucible of combat, where targets maneuvered unpredictably and split-second timing often determined the very thin line between survival and destruction. By the spring of 1941, the situation had escalated to a point of profound desperation. German U-boats were relentlessly sinking Allied merchant ships at a rate far exceeding their replacement capacity, while Japanese naval forces posed a formidable and existential threat to American positions throughout the vast Pacific theater. American warships were equipped with anti-aircraft guns that could barely graze their targets, leaving them perilously exposed to devastating aerial assaults. The Bureau of Ordnance's Fire Control Section, under the diligent leadership of Lieutenant Commander Marion Murphy, faced immense and mounting pressure to urgently resolve the intractable anti-aircraft problem. Traditional approaches had unequivocally exhausted their potential, and time was rapidly dwindling. America was on the cusp of entering a global conflict where air power would undeniably dominate naval operations. Yet American ships conspicuously lacked effective air defense. The Navy's highest echelons adamantly refused to acknowledge the true magnitude of this burgeoning crisis. Senior officers stubbornly insisted that enhanced training and the deployment of more guns would sufficiently resolve the issue, deliberately overlooking the undeniable mathematical reality that human reflexes could not possibly calculate three-dimensional intercepts with the necessary speed required for modern aerial combat. This pervasive institutional blindness fostered a lethal feedback loop. Failed solutions continued to receive additional funding and development time, while genuinely innovative approaches were summarily dismissed as impractical or outright impossible. Navy bureaucrats, keen to safeguard their professional reputations, attributed the failures to inadequate gunner training rather than confronting fundamental technological limitations. The harrowing human cost of this systemic failure became tragically evident in the opening months of the Pacific War. Japanese aircraft launched their attacks against American ships with minimal losses, while American anti-aircraft fire remained largely impotent. Sailors bore witness, utterly helpless, as enemy bombers and torpedo planes inexorably approached their vessels, agonizingly aware that their defensive weaponry offered little to no genuine protection against determined and relentless attackers. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge, May 1940. Dr. Charles Stark Draper sat in the MIT faculty dining room, his sleeve casually rolled up as he meticulously sketched complex mathematical equations on a humble napkin. At 38 years of age, Doc Draper possessed absolutely no military credentials, no formal weapons training, and zero prior experience with naval gunnery. His specialized academic field was precision instrumentation, a discipline so arcane that the vast majority of Navy officers would have struggled to articulate his professional calling. Draper's unconventional background rendered him an exceedingly improbable candidate to spearhead a revolution in warfare. He had earned his doctorate through an intensive study of gyroscopic instruments, specifically focusing on devices capable of measuring rotation and orientation with microscopic precision. While Navy engineers were preoccupied with designing massive, room-filling fire control computers, Draper's work centered on compact spinning wheels no larger than silver dollars. His esteemed colleagues at MIT recognized him as an eccentric genius, celebrated for his unique ability to approach problems from entirely unexpected and novel angles. His students affectionately referred to him as Doc because of his unwavering insistence on hands-on experimentation over purely theoretical analysis. His laboratory bore a striking resemblance to a bustling machinist's workshop rather than a typical university research facility, replete with lathes, drill presses, and an array of precision measuring instruments. The pivotal breakthrough moment occurred during a casual lunch with a group of pilots and engineers from the Sperry Gyroscope Company. They had been actively testing Draper's most recent invention, an advanced rate-of-turn indicator designed to assist pilots in accurately determining the speed at which their aircraft were banking. This sophisticated device utilized a small gyroscope to measure rotational movement with extraordinary accuracy. Someone at the table produced a newspaper, its headlines screaming about the relentless advance of German tanks through France. The conversation naturally shifted towards potential military applications of their ongoing work, and a pilot casually mentioned the inherent difficulty of accurately hitting moving targets from aircraft. "French gunners can hit a stationary target," the pilot explained with a sigh, "but they can't hit anything that's moving fast." Draper abruptly ceased eating, his gaze fixed intently upon his gyroscopic turn indicator. His keen engineering mind immediately grasped the profound connection between precisely measuring an aircraft's rotation and accurately calculating firing solutions for rapidly moving targets. If a gyroscope can determine how fast an aircraft is turning, Draper mused quietly, his voice filled with a nascent excitement, it can also predict where that aircraft will be in the future. What if we could make the gun sight automatically lead the target? The query, "Can it automatically lead the target?" was posed softly by Draper. A profound quiet descended upon the gathering. The very notion appeared beyond the realm of possibility. An automated mechanism capable of foresight, meticulously computing the necessary aiming point by anticipating a target's ongoing trajectory. Yet Draper, with his keen intellect, perceived the inherent mathematical grace within this potential resolution. His gyroscopic innovation, he realized, required no artificial intelligence. Rather, its efficacy hinged solely upon its unwavering exactitude. In the ensuing weeks, Draper found himself utterly engrossed by the nascent idea of a lead computing site. He meticulously acquired every available volume on the subjects of ballistics and fire control, immersing himself in the intricate physics governing projectile motion and the precise dynamics of target interception. His personal workspace, once orderly, soon became inundated with complex computations, meticulously charting the nuances of trajectory mathematics, the principles of gyroscopic mechanics, and the sophisticated intricacies of optical sight design. Please stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. Draper's profound understanding represented a true paradigm shift. Rather than endeavoring to supplant the nuanced discernment of human judgment with rigid mechanical calculations, his approach aimed to enhance human operational reflexes through the application of gyroscopic exactitude. The individual operating the weapon would continue to visually follow the intended target and initiate the firing sequence, but critically, the sighting mechanism itself would autonomously calibrate the point of aim, thereby accounting for the target's dynamic motion. By the arrival of September 1940, he had successfully articulated the comprehensive theoretical underpinnings for his groundbreaking lead computing site. This innovative apparatus was designed to employ a compact gyroscope, which would meticulously gauge the velocity at which a gunner was tracking a moving objective. Subsequently, it would automatically recalibrate the aiming point of the sight to furnish the precise lead angle required. This concept possessed such an inherent simplicity that it had been entirely overlooked by even highly seasoned engineers. Yet it was simultaneously so radically transformative that it was destined to fundamentally alter the landscape of aerial combat for all time. Within the confines of the MIT Instrumentation Laboratory, at precisely 2200 hours in September of 1940, Dr. Draper toiled in solitary dedication within his subterranean workshop. He was enveloped by an array of specialized machine tools and delicate precision instruments. Dominating his workbench was a rudimentary prototype, its appearance more akin to an ambitious school science project than a sophisticated instrument of military engagement, a rectangular metallic enclosure, roughly the dimensions of a shoebox, which was physically linked to a standard .22 caliber rifle through an assortment of cables and robust mounting brackets. Contained within this unassuming shoebox-sized casing was Draper's truly revolutionary creation, a diminutive gyroscope, no larger than a silver dollar, capable of an astonishing rotational speed of 24,000 revolutions per minute. This gyroscopic marvel was intricately integrated with an advanced optical system designed to project a luminous reticle onto a specially angled pane of glass. Consequently, as a gunner meticulously followed a mobile objective, the gyroscope precisely measured the speed of this tracking motion, and in response, autonomously recalibrated the designated aiming point to accurately account for the target's anticipated future location. For a dedicated period of 6 months, Draper had relentlessly pursued the refinement of this intricate device. His efforts spanned countless evenings and weekends, all while diligently upholding his demanding full-time teaching commitments. This ambitious undertaking, notably, remained entirely unsanctioned. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology possessed no official agreements for the development of armaments, and, furthermore, the military forces of the United States had, at that juncture, expressed no discernible enthusiasm for the potential of gyroscopic gun sights. This particular evening was designated for the inaugural live fire trial of his innovative lead computing sight. Draper meticulously secured the adapted rifle onto a sturdy pipe stand, providing essential support for the additional mass of his experimental prototype. He had ingeniously devised a rudimentary target system, a simple white towel, affixed to a length of rope, which swung rhythmically across the laboratory space, mimicking the oscillatory motion of a pendulum. This oscillating towel was intended to realistically simulate an aerial craft traversing a gunner's visual field. The initial discharge failed to connect with the target entirely. Draper's preliminary calculations proved to be marginally inaccurate, resulting in the sight providing an excessive lead. He meticulously fine-tuned the gyroscope's configurations and discharged the weapon once more. The shot was closer, yet still trailed the moving objective. For an intense period of 3 hours, Draper systematically fired individual rounds at his makeshift target, implementing subtle, precise modifications to the sight's mechanical components subsequent to each misfire. Incrementally, the system's performance demonstrated marked improvement. As the clock struck midnight, he was consistently striking the oscillating towel, an accomplishment that would have been virtually unattainable using traditional iron sights. The pivotal moment, the true breakthrough, arrived with his concluding shot of the night. The towel, on this occasion, traversed his line of sight at a subtle incline, effectively simulating an aircraft executing a banking maneuver. Draper maintained a fluid, uninterrupted track on the target, allowing his gyroscopic sighting mechanism to autonomously determine the optimal lead angle. He then deliberately compressed the trigger. The projectile meticulously pierced the very heart of the moving towel. Draper gazed at the outcome, utterly astonished. His rudimentary experimental device had just achieved what seasoned military specialists deemed utterly unfeasible: the automatic computation of a precise firing solution for an evasive, maneuvering objective. The ramifications of this achievement were nothing short of monumental. On the subsequent morning, Draper presented his compelling test findings to his established contacts at the Sperry Gyroscope Company. The company's engineers, upon scrutinizing his prototype, initially regarded it with pronounced skepticism, immediately observing its rough fabrication and distinctly unorthodox aesthetic. "This contraption appears to be something you might have assembled in your personal garage," observed the chief engineer with a hint of incredulity. "Indeed, that is precisely where I constructed it," Draper responded with an unruffled composure. Upon closer inspection, the engineers at Sperry began to meticulously analyze the gyroscopic mechanism, gradually discerning the remarkable precision and inherent sophistication that lay concealed beneath its unpolished outward appearance. The underlying mathematical tenets were undeniably robust, and the empirical test outcomes provided irrefutable evidence of its efficacy. However, when Draper subsequently introduced his groundbreaking invention to a delegation of military representatives, the reception was both instantaneous and overtly antagonistic. "This notion is utterly preposterous," vehemently declared a Navy ordnance officer. "Your proposal involves affixing a mere spinning top to a firearm and anticipating it will strike airborne targets. That is an absolute impossibility." The chamber subsequently reverberated with scornful laughter and expressions of utter dismissal. Yet Draper maintained an unwavering sense of self-assurance. He had personally witnessed the functional efficacy of his novel invention, and he possessed an unshakable conviction that it was destined to fundamentally transform the very nature of aerial combat. On May 28, 1941, within the formidable confines of the Bureau of Ordnance Navy Department, located in Washington, D.C., Lieutenant Commander Marion Murphy escorted Dr. Draper along the bustling corridors of the Navy's preeminent technical agency. Their path took them past numerous offices, each brimming with intricate engineering blueprints and meticulously crafted scale models of colossal fire control systems. Their destination was a critical meeting, one that held the power to decide the fate of Draper's revolutionary gun sight, whether it would garner official endorsement and crucial resources, or simply vanish into the annals of bureaucratic anonymity. The designated conference chamber housed a distinguished assembly of 12 high-ranking officers and expert civilian engineers, collectively embodying the Navy's foremost technical intellectual capital. Presiding at the head of the expansive table was Captain William Blandy, who held the pivotal position of chief within the Bureau of Ordnance's esteemed Research and Development Division, the very individual whose authoritative sanction was indispensable for Draper's project to advance. "Gentlemen," Murphy commenced, addressing the attentive group, "Dr. Draper has successfully conceived and developed a gyroscopic gun sight. This innovative device is uniquely capable of autonomously calculating the requisite lead angles for targets that are in motion. Notably, this apparatus boasts a remarkably lightweight design, tipping the scales at less than 20 pounds, and crucially, operates entirely without the need for any external power supply. Captain Ralph Christie, recognized as the Bureau's preeminent authority on fire control systems, promptly interjected with a challenging query. Lead computing sites, in various iterations, have been previously explored, he stated. Historically, such systems have necessitated voluminous, room-sized mechanical calculators, demanding the constant attention of multiple teams of skilled operators. How, then, can a mere 20-pound instrument conceivably execute such complex computations? Draper rose from his seat and carefully positioned his prototype onto the polished surface of the conference table. The unrefined metallic enclosure immediately drew a collection of dubious glances from the gathered panel of experts. "This particular device does not, in fact, calculate," Draper clarified in a measured tone. "Instead, it measures. The integrated gyroscope precisely ascertains the rate at which the gunner is tracking an objective in motion, subsequently and autonomously modifying the visual display of the sight to present the accurate lead angle." The chamber erupted in a chorus of vehement objections. "That is an utter impossibility," asserted an engineer representing Westinghouse. "Accurate lead computations demand precise data regarding target velocity, elevation, and directional bearing. Such intricate variables cannot be ascertained through the use of a mere rudimentary gyroscope." A representative from the Ford Instrument Company further augmented the criticism, stating, "The fundamental design of this system is inherently flawed. Effective combat gunnery mandates a level of mechanical precision that human operators are simply incapable of consistently delivering. Your device, rather than eradicating the potential for human fallibility, paradoxically hinges upon the individual skill of the gunner." Captain Christie forcefully struck the table, commanding the attention of the room. "We have dedicated millions of dollars," he emphasized, "to the rigorous development of established and thoroughly proven fire control technologies. These intricate mechanical calculators embody the culmination of many decades of meticulous engineering advancement. You are, in essence, requesting that we forsake fundamental scientific principles in favor of what appears to be nothing more than a simple spinning toy." Draper maintained an unperturbed demeanor as the torrent of criticism escalated. He had previously encountered similar academic skepticism throughout his career, and was acutely aware that truly revolutionary concepts invariably faced considerable opposition from entrenched experts. "Would you perhaps be interested in witnessing a practical demonstration?" he inquired, with understated simplicity. A profound silence descended upon the room. Not a single individual present genuinely anticipated that the unrefined experimental prototype would, in fact, prove to be functionally effective. Precisely 2 days subsequent to that tense meeting, the identical assembly reconvened at the Watertown Arsenal firing range. Draper meticulously affixed his adapted .22 caliber rifle onto a specialized shooting stand, while Murphy diligently managed a sophisticated mechanical apparatus designed to propel targets across the range at diverse velocities and divergent angles. The initial target emerged into view, a distinct white panel traversing from the left flank to the right at an estimated speed of 30 miles per hour. Draper expertly shouldered his rifle, meticulously tracked the objective through the lens of his gyroscopic sight, and then discharged the weapon. The projectile impacted the moving panel with unerring precision, striking it directly in the center. A wave of astonished murmurs rippled through the assembled contingent of observers. "Once more!" Captain Blandy commanded with heightened interest. The subsequent target moved with increased velocity and adhered to a more unpredictable trajectory. Draper maintained his fluid tracking motion, permitting his innovative sight to autonomously compute the necessary lead angle. The result was yet another flawless strike by the time of the fifth successive impact upon the moving targets. The pervasive skepticism that had initially permeated the group had entirely dissipated, giving way to an overwhelming sense of profound amazement. Captain Christie, his skepticism now visibly eroded, approached the rifle and meticulously inspected the gyroscopic sight mechanism. "Precisely how does this operate?" he inquired, his voice hushed with genuine curiosity. Draper then elucidated the underlying physical principles. The gyroscope serves to quantify angular velocity, specifically the rotational speed at which the gunner is pivoting to maintain alignment with a moving objective. Given that angular velocity bears a direct correlation to the necessary lead angle, the sight is thus capable of autonomously furnishing the accurate aiming point critically, without requiring explicit knowledge of the target's actual speed or its precise range. With a decisive declaration, Captain Blandy rendered a judgment that would irrevocably alter the course of naval warfare. "I require comprehensive specifications and a detailed pricing proposal for 50 experimental units," he stated emphatically. "Should this device continue to perform as spectacularly as it has just demonstrated, our requirements will extend to many thousands of them." The chamber once again erupted, but this time the clamor was born of fervent excitement and burgeoning enthusiasm rather than the earlier dismissive skepticism. Officers and engineers alike converged around Draper's groundbreaking prototype, eagerly posing intricate technical inquiries and animatedly deliberating the vast spectrum of potential implementation strategies. Addressing the intricate technical queries and exploring the practical avenues for deployment, Lieutenant Horatio Rivero, who had previously been a student of Dr. Draper during his time at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, approached his former academic mentor with profound and evident respect. "Doc," he declared, his voice filled with admiration, "you have just provided the definitive solution to the most formidable challenge confronting naval gunnery." Remarkably, within a mere day of this pivotal interaction, the United States Navy initiated its inaugural procurement, placing an order for a dozen experimental Mark 14 gun sights. This groundbreaking apparatus, which numerous specialists had previously deemed an utterly impossible and even irrational concept, was poised to become a ubiquitous fixture on every principal warship within the American naval arsenal. The scene shifted to the Naval Proving Ground in Virginia on January 15, 1943, where Commander Arthur MacDonald assumed oversight of what would be recorded as the most extensive and thorough weapons evaluation ever conducted in the annals of naval history. As skilled technicians meticulously affixed the initial production models of the Mark 14 gun sights onto the formidable 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft cannons, the forthcoming statistical data would unequivocally dictate whether Dr. Draper's innovative creation would be adopted as indispensable standard equipment across the entire United States Navy. The established testing regimen was characterized by its exacting and rigorous precision. Remotely controlled target drones navigated meticulously pre-charted flight paths, varying in velocity, elevation, and angles of approach, while dedicated gun crews discharged controlled volleys of ammunition. Sophisticated electronic counters diligently registered each projectile expended and every successful strike accomplished, thereby generating an indisputably precise mathematical quantification of the sight's overall efficacy. The initial baseline evaluations, conducted utilizing conventional iron sights, revealed a total of 12,147 rounds discharged, resulting in 412 successful target engagements, culminating in a modest success rate of 3.2%. In stark contrast, subsequent testing employing the sophisticated Mark 14 gyroscopic sights saw 15,118 rounds expended, achieving an impressive 1,527 hits, which translated into a significantly elevated success rate of 10.1%. This amelioration was undeniably profound, exhibiting an increase in the effective kill rate that more than tripled the performance of traditional sighting mechanisms. However, the most compelling findings emerged from the continuous observation of individual gun crews across numerous training exercises. Gunners operating with the Mark 14 sights demonstrated remarkably swift proficiency gains, primarily because the automated computation of lead angles liberated them to concentrate entirely on maintaining fluid and precise target tracking rather than grappling with complex mental arithmetic under pressure. Gunner's Mate, First Class. Joseph Romano articulated a common sentiment regarding the older equipment, stating, "I was perpetually engaged in guesswork concerning my aiming point. Frequently, I would either fire too far ahead or too far behind the target. With the advent of the Mark 14, my task is simply to maintain the target within the reticle and actuate the trigger. The sight itself undertakes the intricate calculations. We kindly invite you to remain with us and witness the conclusion of this compelling narrative. Your support, through a simple like and subscription, would be profoundly appreciated. Please also consider sharing your thoughts in the comments below, letting us know where you are tuning in from and what your perspective is on the fascinating subject matter explored in this video. By the advent of June 1943, the meticulously manufactured Mark 14 sights were progressively being distributed to the warships comprising the Pacific Fleet. Their inaugural trial in actual combat conditions transpired during the intense invasion of the Gilbert Islands on November 20, 1943, aboard the USS Lexington, positioned approximately 50 miles northeast of the crucial Tarawa Atoll. Aviation ordnanceman, Second Class Mike Sullivan, a dedicated crew member, positioned himself defensively behind his formidable 40mm Bofors gun as the aircraft carrier's sophisticated radar system detected the ominous presence of approaching Japanese aircraft. Betty bombers, flying at an altitude of 15,000 feet, initiated their perilous attack dives, rapidly accelerating beyond 350 miles per hour as they bore down upon the American task force. "Bogies inbound! Bearing 270!" reverberated the urgent cry from the gun director-operator. Sullivan swiftly maneuvered his weapon to confront the oncoming enemy aircraft, his gaze fixed through the innovative Mark 14 gyroscopic sight. The bright illuminated reticle precisely indicated his aiming point, dynamically calibrating itself as he maintained a steady track on the plummeting bomber. The first Japanese aircraft entered his optimal engagement range at 4,000 yards. Sullivan unleashed a torrent of 40mm shells towards the hostile plane. His tracer rounds, glowing incandescently, streaked accurately ahead of the intended target, exactly to the point where the Mark 14 sight had prognosticated the aircraft's future position. The bomber disintegrated in a spectacular mid-air explosion, scattering flaming wreckage into the vast ocean below. "Got him!" Sullivan exclaimed triumphantly, already pivoting his weapon to engage the subsequent attacker. Within a remarkably brief span of 15 minutes, the American task force achieved the impressive feat of neutralizing 11 Japanese aircraft, while concurrently sustaining only negligible damage to a solitary destroyer. This exceptional kill ratio signified a profound and complete reversal of fortunes compared to previous encounters, during which Japanese aviators had frequently managed to breach American aerial defenses with considerable ease. Yet the most compelling and dramatic corroboration of the Mark 14's unparalleled effectiveness manifested during the harrowing kamikaze assaults in the Philippines. On October 25, 1944, aboard the illustrious USS Enterprise, gunner's mate second class Tommy Rodriguez, the identical sailor introduced in our initial scene, was now skillfully operating a 40mm Bofors gun, now fortified with Dr. Draper's groundbreaking sighting apparatus. As Japanese dive bombers hurtled towards his carrier in what constituted the very first organized kamikaze offensive, Rodriguez meticulously tracked the lead aircraft through the precise optics of his Mark 14 gunsight. The sophisticated gyroscopic mechanism automatically computed the precise lead angle required as the kamikaze pilot plunged earthward at an astonishing 400 miles per hour. Rodriguez steadfastly maintained the target centered within his sight picture and delivered a sustained, unyielding barrage of fire. His projectiles successfully intercepted the diving aircraft at a range of 2,000 yards, utterly obliterating it before it could impact the carrier. Surrounding him, scores of other gun crews, similarly equipped with the indispensable Mark 14 sights, replicated this success. The kamikaze attack, which was intended to inflict catastrophic devastation upon the American task force, instead culminated in severe Japanese losses and only superficial harm to U.S. naval vessels. The resultant statistical enhancement was nothing short of astonishing. The aggregate anti-aircraft statistics emerging from the Philippine campaign were profoundly telling. A total of 1,947 kamikaze aircraft were engaged, with an astounding 10,452 of these being successfully shot down by vessels equipped with the Mark 14 sights, yielding an extraordinary success rate of 78.6%. This remarkable efficacy was further underscored by the enemy's palpable reaction, which unequivocally revealed the sheer scale of the transformation in American defensive capabilities. Intercepted Japanese communications evinced a palpable and escalating apprehension regarding the formidable effectiveness of American anti-aircraft fire. Commander Yoshio of the 343rd Naval Air Group communicated his grave concerns to his superiors, reporting, "American defensive fire has attained a devastating level of accuracy. Our pilots are consistently reporting that enemy tracers now intersect with our aircraft with an almost mechanical precision." Prior tactical approaches, relying on high-speed maneuvers, no longer afford sufficient protection. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai, widely recognized as Japan's foremost aerial ace, offered a poignant observation. "A fundamental shift has occurred in American gunnery. Their shells now impact precisely where our aircraft are destined to be, rather than merely where they currently reside. It is as though their gunners possess the uncanny ability to perceive events before they unfold." The most incisive and definitive assessment came from Admiral Takejiro Onishi, the esteemed commander of Japanese naval aviation, who grimly concluded, "American ships have become virtually impregnable to assault. Their anti-aircraft barrages achieve hit rates that closely approximate theoretical maximums. We are compelled to operate under the assumption that every attempt to approach enemy vessels will inevitably culminate in the annihilation of our aircraft." The profound repercussions of this technological marvel extended far beyond mere statistical data. They resonated deeply within the human experience. American sailors who had previously endured the agonizing sensation of helplessness as enemy aircraft converged upon their vessels were now empowered with genuinely effective defensive armaments. Seaman First Class Robert Hayes, serving aboard the USS Franklin, vividly conveyed this transformative sentiment in a letter to his family. "We no longer experience that dreadful feeling of vulnerability when the Japanese forces make their presence known. Our weaponry now functions, truly functions. When we shoot at them, they are brought down. It is akin to having a benevolent guardian angel overseeing every single ship within the fleet." By the cessation of hostilities, the Mark 14 gun sight had been integrated into more than 85,000 American and British artillery pieces. This ingenious device, which had initially been derided by specialists as both impossible and insane, had ultimately achieved kill rates that surpassed even the most sanguine pre-war estimations, fundamentally altering naval anti-aircraft combat from a realm of desperate aspiration into one of quantifiable and lethal certainty. On that momentous day of August 15, 1945, within the historic confines of Tokyo Bay, aboard the majestic USS Missouri, as General MacArthur formally received Japan's instruments of surrender, a compelling truth was evident. Every substantial vessel of the U.S. Navy present in the harbor was equipped with numerous Mark 14 gyroscopic gun sights. This seemingly impossible invention, which naval authorities had summarily rejected just 4 years prior, had now ascended to the status of indispensable standard equipment across American warships globally. The conclusive statistical data unequivocally underscored the immense scale of Dr. B. Draper's invaluable contribution to the Allied triumph, a staggering total of 85,000 deployed Mark 14 gun sights were manufactured. 23,147 enemy aircraft were definitively eliminated, and an estimated 50,000 American lives were preserved. Subsequent post-war assessments meticulously demonstrated that ships outfitted with the Mark 14 sights attained anti-aircraft kill rates an astonishing 15 times greater than those achieved by vessels relying on conventional gunnery. The sheer mathematical exactitude of this advancement was truly breathtaking. A deceptively simple gyroscopic mechanism had fundamentally transmuted naval air defense from a state of futile desperation into one of decisive and lethal certainty. The most profound and compelling endorsements emanated directly from the servicemen who had personally endured and ultimately triumphed through this monumental transformation. Lieutenant Commander Frank Smith, serving aboard the distinguished USS Hornet, articulated, in his concluding patrol report, "The Mark 14 sight instilled in us a level of confidence we had never previously possessed. We were unequivocally assured that when Japanese aircraft converged upon our vessels, we possessed the means to repel them effectively." This profound psychological shift was, in its own right, as critically important as the technical enhancements themselves. Gunners Mate First Class. Joseph Romano, whose earlier feedback had been so illustrative, offered what was arguably the most heartfelt and affecting homage. Dr. Draper never once stepped onto the deck of a warship, never discharged a weapon in combat, never donned a military uniform. Yet, owing to his singular invention, countless thousands of American sailors were able to return safely to their homes. We are indebted to him beyond measure. Despite such fervent accolades, Dr. Draper himself maintained a posture of characteristic modesty concerning his extraordinary accomplishment. When journalists sought him out after the war for interviews pertaining to his revolutionary gun sight, he consistently redirected all praise and credit towards the dedicated Navy personnel, who had tirelessly implemented and operated his device in the crucible of battle. My contribution was merely the resolution of a complex mathematical problem, Draper steadfastly maintained. The true heroes were those brave young men who skillfully employed those sights to safeguard their vessels and, crucially, their fellow shipmates. Demonstrating an unwavering dedication to his scientific pursuits over personal aggrandizement, Dr. Draper courteously declined all overtures for commercial endorsements, invitations for celebrity appearances, and even lucrative Hollywood film contracts. He promptly reverted to his esteemed laboratory at MIT, where he dedicated his prodigious intellect to confronting novel challenges within the specialized domain of precision instrumentation. His wartime renown, rather than being embraced, became a source of personal discomfort and embarrassment that he assiduously sought to circumvent. The enduring impact of the Mark XIV, however, resonated far beyond the immediate conclusion of World War II. The fundamental gyroscopic principles that Dr. Draper innovatively applied to anti-aircraft gunnery subsequently established the bedrock for contemporary inertial navigation systems. Furthermore, his seminal post-war research and development in the critical field of missile guidance directly paved the way for the sophisticated navigation computers that were instrumental in the monumental Apollo program. Draper's foundational work, a testament to ingenious problem-solving, directly paved the way for the sophisticated navigation computers that powered the Apollo program's historic lunar missions. These vital systems were instrumental in guiding humanity to the moon and back, ensuring precision and safety in an unprecedented endeavor. Fast forward to the present day, and the formidable reach of American defense capabilities owes a significant debt to his pioneering spirit. Each American submarine, a silent guardian of national security, now carries Trident ballistic missiles, whose guidance systems are direct descendants of Draper's groundbreaking wartime innovations. The esteemed Stark Draper Laboratory proudly maintains its crucial role as the exclusive provider of navigation systems for U.S. Navy strategic weapons, a clear and unbroken lineage tracing back to that rudimentary shoebox-sized prototype meticulously tested within the confines of an MIT basement. This humble beginning blossomed into a technological tree, whose branches extend into modern aerial combat. Contemporary fighter aircraft, for instance, utilize advanced head-up displays that seamlessly project critical targeting information onto pilot windshields, a direct application of the very principle Draper conceived for his revolutionary gyroscopic gun sight. Furthermore, cutting-edge anti-aircraft systems continue to rely on the steadfast stability provided by gyroscopic mechanisms, ensuring unparalleled precision for tracking and engaging fleeting targets across dynamic battlefields. Beyond the intricate mechanics of military hardware, the profound moral lesson embedded in Dr. Draper's achievements resonates deeply, extending far beyond the realm of mere technological advancement. He triumphed decisively in areas where a multitude of established experts had faltered, primarily because he approached a seemingly intractable, long-standing problem with an utterly fresh and unencumbered perspective. His unique and rather unconventional background, far from being a handicap, proved to be an immense advantage, granting him the clarity to discern ingenious solutions that highly trained and conventionally minded weapons engineers had inexplicably overlooked. This outsider's viewpoint allowed him to bypass the mental blockages and ingrained assumptions that often stifle innovation within specialized fields. Indeed, as a perceptive MIT colleague once famously remarked, with a touch of admiring irony, Doc didn't know that automatic lead calculation was impossible. So, with an audacious disregard for perceived limitations, he went ahead and invented it anyway. This pithy observation encapsulates the very essence of his genius, an unfettered mind unburdened by the perceived boundaries of what could or could not be achieved. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The remarkable individual who profoundly revolutionized aerial warfare, fundamentally altering the landscape of combat, consistently operated without seeking personal accolades, claiming no individual glory, and pursuing no financial profit from his monumental contributions. His enduring legacy is not merely etched into the annals of scientific discovery, but actively thrives within the operational heart of every precision weapon system deployed today, within the intricate circuitry of every navigation computer guiding critical missions, and most profoundly, in the lives of countless American servicemen and women who returned home safely to their families. Their safe return, a testament to the efficacy of his genius, was made possible because one extraordinary MIT professor, driven by an unwavering conviction, steadfastly refused to accept the conventional wisdom that accurately hitting moving targets was an insurmountable impossibility. His unwavering determination transformed what was once considered science fiction into a tangible reality, shaping the course of history and safeguarding lives.